PR Connections Radio presents.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to PR Connections. My name is Guy Dawson, and I am your host. And I am excited to reconnect with a friend that I have had for several years, and we connected through the experiences of 2020. And for those of us who were around in 2020, which is most of us, we all know that was a unique time in history. It was actually the beginning of the establishment of the network PR Connections, and the basis for the establishment of this network was a host of interviews that I did with a group of people, and it was timely. There were, of course, as we know, there was lots of upheaval behind lots of different things, the relationships between the community and the police, and so many things. COVID-19 was going on during that time. It was just a unique time in history, and I had the opportunity through the beginning of the establishment of this network. It's a miracle that 4 years later, here we are. It's almost that time of year when we first started doing our first interviews, and I was interviewing people regularly about these topics. And one of the people that I had an excellent interview with was my good friend, Laurie Benson. And she is back on the air today. We're going to talk about some of the events back in 2020 and some of the wonderful things that we're working on together that we think are really going to benefit the community. Welcome, Laurie, to the PR Connection Show.
Hi, Guy. Thank you for having me back on. I'm very grateful that to be on here with you today, and for you giving me the opportunity to be able to express my feelings about different issues and community problems that are going on.
Yes, Laurie and I have an interesting connection beyond this show, is that she had done this show years ago, and we discovered later that we're both stagehands. It was, she heard my voice. It was really interesting. We both are members of I'd say Local 720, and we were working together one day, and she heard my voice, and she said, "Hey, you interviewed me. You're that guy. I know that voice. How do I know you?" And just so happens that we had both been the members of the same union for many years, and we've really, over these couple of years, we've really struck up a friendship, and I just so appreciate the perspectives, Laurie, that we've been able to cover over these last couple of years that go beyond just this one show that we had done together.
Exactly right. Yeah, you're just more than this interviewer from this podcast. You're my brother, from the union, so that makes it even more important and more than just a coincidence, because it was very important for you to touch on the subject of, my son that has been locked up in county jail for over 10 years. And the inhumane situation that's been going on there. So that was so important for you to bring light to that subject, and others and other people's, problems going on.
Yeah, Laurie, it gave me so many perspectives, when you do that many interviews. And I mean, there were people who had suffered through all types of situations where they had family members. A lot of the focus of these interviews were family members who had died at the hands of police, or they were the family members of people who had died at the hands of police, or had some type of interaction with law enforcement and they passed away as a result of it, or like with Laurie's circumstances with her son, where his long incarceration without really a sense of judicial justice being done. And just to have this platform to allow people like you, Laurie, to express things that most people don't hear about, only for a little while, right? In traditional media, you hear about these types of things as long as they're popular. Usually it's attached to something really big, like in that summer, it was George Floyd's death. But
Yeah,
generally, in large media, they go into these things. Everything is brought to light. Everyone's all upset and up in arms, and it's a news cycle, and then it goes away. But the experiences in these families and the trauma and all of the challenges that you're experiencing connected to that don't go away. And that's why
exactly.
platform for right to give people like you a voice beyond just the news cycles of corporate media.
Exactly. To have this platform is a blessing. You know, it's bringing transparency to these issues that people need to talk about, and it's even a form of therapy. You know, for others to be able to express their real feelings about things, because the news don't, you know, like you said, the traditional news doesn't really give or allow people to talk about certain issues that are so important and that are just, you know, brushed under the rug, like they say, you know, swept under the rug and not talked about.
Right, like the feeling that a mother has with the type of situation with your son, and I know that this is something you've been dealing with for a long time. One of the
Yeah.
things that you did was you reached out to a group of people, and maybe you'd like to
Yes.
talk about that group a bit to help as a support mechanism while you were going through that.
Yes. Nisa and her husband played a big part in starting a Force Trajectory Project. It was a group of people that, including myself, um, that their family members were affected by police brutality in one way or another. Mainly, they were killed unnecessarily, and their stories never got out there until um, Nisa had came on and started this group. And unfortunately, it doesn't exist anymore. But I would like to bring those people back on to put their stories out there and to um, bring more community involvement, and to maybe touch on things like this so they won't happen again. And so it's just, you know, the inhumanity of it all that plays a part, you know, even from being in jail, prison, and being treated unfairly also.
And I know that that sense of community that your group had with Nisa, just a fantastic leader that she was. And Nisa is the person that I originally connected with because she was heading this group of people, and she said, "I've got lots of people within my organization who have a story to tell, and we would love to partner with you as you start to get this podcast network off the ground." And it's just that sense of camaraderie, you know, Laurie, that I was seeing as all these different family members kept coming through and talking about their stories. And again, it was such a turbulent time then, where so many things were happening. But just to create a platform for you guys all to have a voice, to have
Yes.
a say. And I know that this is something that you are still so passionate about, which is one of the reasons why we're talking today, is that we're going to recreate a version of what we did back in 2024, in that Laurie and I are going to start to do podcasts on this network where we begin to talk about some issues. Laurie, maybe you would like to share with the audience some of the things that some of the topics that we'll approach as we sort of recreate 4 years later this PR Connection
Mhm.
show.
Well, the most obvious ones and the most common problems that we have going on right now is um, the homeless community here in our valley that doesn't seem to be getting any better. It just seems to be getting worse. And everybody has a negative idea about people on the streets, and, you know, how we can come together and help these people. And so it doesn't keep getting worse. and again, just bring awareness to this issue, and also the fentanyl issue, of course, that is killing our people, and that again, we need to bring people on and have people talk about their experiences with these subjects, and be able to help people if we can in some way by putting it out there and talking about it.
Right, just raising the awareness, right, Lori? I mean,
Yes.
again, me just reflecting back on that summer of 2020 when we were doing these interviews regularly, and it was the engagement that we had. Again, that was like a hyper focused time where just so many things were going on. So I know there was a higher level of awareness just because of that particular time period. But there are
Yes.
still people out there, as you mentioned, these are relevant topics, and there are many more in any community across America or in the world where
Yeah.
people's voices aren't being heard. And the title of the show is Voices of Humanity.
Hmm.
And a lot of voices of humanity don't get heard. And part of what
No.
Lori and I are going to work to do is to help people to get their voices heard.
Yes, for sure. Because like on the news, like even the local news, you hear about all these negative things that are going on, but you don't they only touch on them for maybe a minute or two, and then we're all like, oh wow, that's terrible that that has happened. And then you don't hear about it again. You don't get in touch, or we don't hear from people personally, about how it affected them, and how it affected their family members, and how it affected their living situations or financially, or however it affected them. um, we don't hear about their stories, after the fact of these things happening to them. So this will help get people together as a group, and be able to uh, maybe come up with solutions to whatever's going on, so it won't happen to people, other people in the future.
Yes, in the unity, Lori. One of the things that I recognized right off the bat when we were doing these interviews was the togetherness. And again, even though there was a lot of negativity to the circumstances behind what was going on at that
Mhm.
time, the sense of community that was being built through that, and me seeing that with these shows. I mean, the amount of views that we got, thousands and thousands of views of
Mhm.
these shows, all kinds of sharing. I mean, the type of feedback that I would get. I mean, my messenger for our Facebook, our social media platforms was just full all the
Really?
time
I
with
didn't know
people
that.
reaching out to me about this story, that story. It was just such an eye opener for me.
Right. Yeah. So that show, tells you right there, just for that little bit of time that you were doing that, you know what I mean, with the interviews, which was what, a good year or so, 2 years maybe, that you were bringing light on these subjects, putting light on these subjects with all that, I mean, I can only imagine if we stayed on for a while, that it would really bring a lot of people on and um, be able to share with others, and that's what's important, that people care, because I'm sure a lot of people feel like nobody really cares. That's
Mm.
how I've been feeling, when it comes to my son, what he's been through, that nobody really cares. Not, I mean, I felt like I can't even trust the justice system, the public defender's office, people in um, positions that you want to be able to trust, and you can't. So when you're on here and you're talking about real stuff and people can relate to what, your situation is, then you feel that you can be open and be able to, when you pull people like that together, then there's trust there. more so than the justice system.
Yes, and there's the strength in that trust that right, the Voices of Humanity community, which is people feeling that they have a space. And I know with Nisa's movement, Laurie, which you were a part of, and it wasn't really Nisa's movement. She was the leader of the movement, but it was really everyone's movement, right?
Yeah.
But those Voices of Humanity coming together like that, it was eye-opening for me to see that. The
Yes.
support that you were providing for one another. And again, that the need for that doesn't just go away after the traumatic, you have this big, again, specifically George Floyd, right? The traumatic experience of that and everything that was attached to it. But that, again, not that that's not important, but life is long, right? So these types of situations are still happening. A lot of the trauma that people experience is real and it lasts, and you need that continued support, that community of Voices of Humanity, sometimes just to be able to keep going.
Yeah, it's a type of therapy to be able to connect with people that are on the same level and that understand what you're going through. It's very important.
Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to this, Laurie. We're going to relaunch. Well, we have of course, at prconnectionsradio.com, we've got a Voices of Humanity show that is hosted by Sandra McKechnie, and she's doing a wonderful job with the topics that she covers. And she will continue to do that version of Voices of Humanity. However, Laurie and I are going to work together on a community activism-oriented version of Voices of Humanity, and we're going to be bringing people through to discuss topics that are really relevant to our communities. And you out there, you're going to be able to identify with the stories that are told from these voices, because again, Las Vegas is where we live, and a lot of these voices are going to be specific to Las Vegas, but these stories are going to be relatable to people from communities all over the country, because the same things that are happening here, Laurie, where you talk about the homelessness as a result of COVID, has just become this enormous topic all over America, right? I mean,
sadness.
Specifically, I have really seen and heard about just the growth of homelessness all over America.
Yeah, and our mental health, our mental health situation going on here too goes hand in hand with that, and it just seems to be getting worse. And how I wish that our city and our county could figure out something else, besides mental health. They have to build a bigger psychiatric hospital down here in Southern Nevada. They have one in Northern Nevada, which the population is very low percentage compared to what we have here. And we really need a psychiatric hospital down here in Southern Nevada. Maybe that would help with the homeless problem,
Yes, so these are the types of topics that, again, homelessness being one of them, and there's just so many topics that plague communities that a lot of times don't get discussed. And so we're going to be offering this platform again for the Voices of Humanity. So, Laurie, is there anything else that you'd like to share with everyone? What to expect. I did this all by myself back in 2020. And I'm just so grateful to have a co-hostess, especially someone who I actually was engaged with this work at that particular time. And of course, our bond being both union brother and sister. I mean, there's a lot of connections that we have here. But I also think that you and I are really in agreement on how important this is for people.
Yes.
This is really about the people. Is there anything that you want to say to the audience about what they can expect with the rebirth of Voices of Humanity, the Community Activism Edition?
Well, first off, I'm just so grateful for you being able to let me come on here and give me the opportunity to talk about these subjects. And I just want to be a part of this, because it is like Voices of Humanity, you know. It's the, you know, the humane thing to do. Somebody needs to step up and take the platform and move forward and bring people together locally, because on a nationwide scale, it just doesn't really, you know, hit home for us. So it's so important that we do this. And I appreciate you, Guy. Thank you so much.
Yes, these are going to be exciting times. And for all of you, again, stay tuned for more updates on our social media platforms and elsewhere. This, again, the birth or the rebirth of Voices of Humanity, the Community Activism Edition. I'm really looking forward to it. And again, yeah, Laurie, we're going to explore some topics that are going to be so relevant and hopefully will help a lot of people.
Yes, for sure. Great.
And I want to encourage all of you to continue to tune in to shows here at prconnectionsradio.com. We've got a lineup of shows that continues to increase, and continue to like all of our social media platforms. We would love more subscribers, specifically on the YouTube platform. But please subscribe to all of our social media platforms, and take care of yourselves, and see you soon for the next edition of Voices of Humanity. It'll be the Community Activism Edition. Take care.
PR Connections Radio thanks you for watching this podcast. Check out more episodes of this show and our others at prconnectionsradio.com.